everybody, Trevor here, and welcome to another top video. You may recall in my top 5 favorite Thomas toy brands video where I placed Bachmann as the number 5 spot. Well, for today, I thought it'd be best to do a top 20 Bachmann Thomas items I'd like to see be made. Before we start this, I just wanted to say thank you so much for over 4.4 thousand subscribers. It really helps me a lot. Now for this list, I'm only going to include those that have the possibility to be manufactured. So don't expect there to be an HO scale version of Winston nor Fergus the railway traction engine because, for one thing, Winston would most likely be too small to have an HO scale model. Secondly, Fergus only appeared in season 7 and never returned afterwards due to mechanical issues. I also won't be including any non-televised characters like Belle for Hornby because most of them don't sell very well, which may explain why Bachmann cancelled Fred Pelhate and Rickety in the first place. In addition, I want this list to mainly be about engines and rolling stock, so don't expect any sort of scenery or any other accessories in this video. Now keep in mind that this list is from least likely to most likely, because I want my number 1 spot to be something very special. Also keep in mind that this is going to be a very long video, which is why I'm going to split it into 2 parts. So buckle up because we'll be diving deep into which Thomas items I'd like to see manufactured in Bachmann form, whether in HO, G, or N scale. So let's get chugging. Number 20 is Lady the Magical Engine. The reason why I love Lady is because not only is she beautiful, but Belle did a fantastic job voicing her in Thomas Magic Railroad, in my opinion. But the reason why she's extremely low on this list is because, for one thing, she only appeared in both Thomas and Magic Railroad and Calling All Engines. Secondly, many people criticize her for being a plot device, which is a fair point, but still, I like the movie regardless of its hate. And thirdly, if they can't make her in HO scale form, then I guess they'll have to give her the same treatment as Winston's G-scale form. I don't know, I still would like for Lady to be made by Bachmann someday, whether in HO scale or G-scale form. Number 19, Spencer's Brake Coach. This was a Hornby exclusive, and sadly, Bachmann only made the composite version, which I might get someday. I really don't understand why Bachmann wouldn't want to make this. Maybe it's because it looks too similarly to the composite coach, or maybe that Spencer normally pulls one special coach in the show, example season 7. Well, whatever the case, I still think Bachmann should make the brake version of Spencer's coach just to complete Spencer's long train, because they already did that with the red and green express coaches, so why not do the same with Spencer's coaches as well? Number 18, Gordon's Special Blue Coaches. Not to be confused with Spencer's coaches, but these particular coaches only appeared in the season 10 episode Emily and the Special Coaches, also known as Emily and the Special Cars for some reason. That's one reason why these are number 18. The second reason is that I'm not so sure that this will likely happen since we already have Gordon's Green Express coaches in HO scale form. But still, I would love for these blue coaches to be manufactured just because they look cool. And my favorite color is blue, by the way. Number 17, City of Churro. In case some of you don't know, there was a Hornby model of the City of Churro who was believed to be the first to travel over 100 miles per hour, according to Thomas in one episode. And in all honesty, I wouldn't mind this character to be re-released by Bachmann, whether he's faceless or not, because for one thing, he's one of the only few Thomas characters in the TV series that's based on a real-life locomotive. And furthermore, he's also good friends with Duck, though I did wish that City of Churro had a face in the show, if he ever returned in full CGI, that is. Number 16, Splatter and Dodge. These two Class 08 diesel shunters were Diesel 10 series sidekicks, who first appeared in Thomas Magic Railroad. Unfortunately, they're number 16 on this list for many reasons. For starters, they only appeared in the first movie and never came back afterwards. Although they were going to return in Day of the Diesels and The Great Race as cameos, but were ultimately replaced by new characters. In the final cut of Thomas Magic Railroad, they were useless characters and were mainly made to sell toys, Not to mention that they were the last new characters created by Brett Allcroft. And because of all this, Splatter and Dodge have unfortunately faded into obscurity, and they weren't really that popular. In my opinion, I don't hate Splatter and Dodge. I just wish they had a better purpose in the movie rather than just stand there and do nothing but chatter. However, because Bachmann does listen to their fans, I think it would be nice if these two diesels get manufactured as HO scale models because not only it would be awesome fan service, but it would give them some more publicity. So that way, kids nowadays can know and learn who these two characters are. Number 15 is Arthur. Arthur is a very underrated Thomas character, and he only appeared in the model series. He mainly works on the Hornby branch line, which has fishing villages. And because he's so underrated, he deserves the number 15 spot. But at the same time, I would love this character to be remade as HO scale for Bachmann, because like Splatter and Dodge, this guy deserves more publicity than what he already got. In fact, his last appearance was in season 12 where he cameos behind Oliver. But unfortunately, he didn't have a CGI face then. And if Arthur were to have a voice actor, I think he should have been voiced by either Tom Stewarton or Nathan Clark, because I think those two would do a great job as the character. But let me know what you guys think. Number 14 is Belle. I know a lot of people don't like Belle, not just because of her face design, but because she has unrealistic water cannons on her side tanks, which take up a lot of water. In all honesty, I actually like Belle as a character. Not only is she strong and reliable, but her water cannons make her unique. After all, I don't want Diesel 10 to be the only engine to have an unrealistic addition to him. As for Belle's water cannons, they don't have to squirt out water. They can just be moved around by hands, and the kids could just use their imaginations to make her squirt out water. That's what imagination is for. But I put Belle as number 14 because she looks very similar to Arthur in terms of design, except that she's a different class of locomotive than him. Maybe someday the company will release her as an HO scale model. Number 13, Den. Why Den and not both Den and Dart? Well, mainly because I want to save Dart for part 2 for surprise reasons. But at the same time, I would like to have Den be made into an HO scale model because he's kind of cool, and I do like Keith Wickham's performance as the character. Oh, and don't worry, Dart should also be made into Bachmann too, but that's for another time, so I don't want to spoil too much. Number 12, Neville. Like Arthur, Neville is another underrated character that deserves more recognition than what he got. Not only he's kind and friendly, but his design makes him so unique in my eyes because he looks like a diesel engine, when in reality, he's actually a steamy. If Neville can be made into other merchandise like Wooden Railway, Take Along, and Tomy Trackmaster, why can't they make him into a Bachmann model too? I mean, look at him! He has some of the best detailing I've ever seen, including the rivets and the shape of his footplate. He's bound to have a Bachmann counterpart. Number 11, Diesel 10. I know what you're thinking. How could this character work as a Bachmann model? Well, simple. He could just run like any regular model train would. But as for his claw Pinchy, I don't think it should be electronically moved. Otherwise, it would waste not only money, but also electricity. But I still want the claw to be articulate and be moved by human hands just to make it cheap and easy. If the people at Bachmann ever decide to make an HO scale model of Diesel 10, not only it would be a blast from the past, no pun intended, but like Splatter and Dodge, it could give the character even more publicity than just a movie-only character. Oh, and make sure his model has that classic evil grin face instead of his CGI one. Otherwise, some fans will get pissed off with the CGI modeling and stuff. Number 10. All the Hornby exclusive characters, which are Stepney, Flying Scotsman, Murdoch, Old Slow Coach, Dart, and Diesel 261. I really don't understand why these 6 characters aren't remade into Bachmann HO scale yet. I mean, these are some of the most underrated Thomas characters in Thomas the Tank Engine history. However, the main reason why these are number 10 is because a few of them like Old Slow Coach are quite forgotten, while others like Stepney and Flying Scotsman do have a chance of being made because they're famous and popular. Not to mention that the Flying Scotsman got a CGI render since the Great Race, which was very awesome. The only one I don't want to be made by Bachmann is Bear, aka Diesel 7101, because as mentioned in part 1 of the video, most non-televised characters don't sell very well, and I don't think kids nowadays would know who this character is. But back on topic, I still think these 6 televised characters should be remade as Bachmann HO scale models because, like Splatter and Dodge, they need more publicity so that kids nowadays can know who they really were. Bachmann, if you're watching this, then please, I beg of you, release these Hornby characters as Bachmann renditions, so that way the UK fans can be able to buy them again for their layouts. Oh, and make sure Flying Scotsman's model matches his CGI counterpart too. Number 9 is Stafford. When I first saw this character in his debut episode, Welcome Stafford, I thought he looked splendid because not only was he the first electric engine to appear in the show, but his basis is from the North Staffordshire Railway. I also thought Keith Wickham does a perfect job giving the character a Yorkshire accent. And because I like this character, I think he should have an HO scale model, and maybe a G scale model too, because he's really that interesting in my eyes. Number 8 is a tie between Whiff and Scruff. I'm honestly glad Hit Entertainment and Mattel were reusing these two characters for the show because I don't want them to end up like Billy. And not only they were made to sell toys, but also to expand on the lore of the show. And because of their popularity amongst kids, I think these two deserve to be made into Bachmann as HO scale models. And besides, I think it's cool to teach kids about garbage collecting and recycling because it helps the environment. Oh, and I think they should make open wagons full of garbage too. Number 7, Rocky. In my opinion, Rocky is a cool character, and it's what makes Edward Strikes Out worth watching in the first place, even though I don't like the episode overall. And to be frank, we don't have any breakdown trains in the Bachmann-Thomas range yet, so I think this will be the perfect opportunity to make one in HO scale form, and possibly G scale form too. I chose Rocky because he was the first breakdown train in the show to have a face, while the original breakdown train was non-sentient until the adventure begins, when they decided to turn it into a couple new characters. But this is Rocky we're talking about, and those are all the reasons why Rocky deserves the number 7 spot. Number 6, the jet engine from season 6. Ah yes, one of the best rolling stock pieces from one of the best episodes of season 6. If the jet engine got made into Wooden Railway, Take Along, Trackmaster, etc., why not do the same for Bachmann? After all, like I said before, Bachmann does listen to their fans, unlike Mattel. Anyways, the reason I want this to be made into HO scale form because not only Thomas and the Jet Engine was a great episode, but it would be awesome fan service for the company to make a model of the Jet Engine. Oh, and not to mention, like the sound chips Thomas, they should totally do the same thing with the Jet Engine, just with Jet Engine sound effects. Number 5 is Nia. If Rebecca is currently being made in Bachmann form, why not do the same for Nia? After all, Nia is one of the new members of the Steam Team back in the Bubba days. Now, as much as I don't like Nia, mainly because she's a Mary Sue character, but I believe it is possible for her to be manufactured in Bachmann form because of Big World Big Adventures. And if they are going to do that, then I think they should release her not only in HO scale form, but in N scale form too, because Nia and N scale both start with the letter N. Number 4, Sydney the Forgetful Diesel Shunter. The only Class 0H shunters we've got in the Bachmann range so far were Diesel, Airy, Bert, and Paxton, so it's quite possible that Sydney would be next in line. I honestly like Sydney because he's just like Dory from Finding Nemo. The reason he's number 4 is that unlike Splatter and Dodge, who only appeared in the first Thomas movie, Sydney had more than one appearance in the series, as well as being more famous than the other two, so it would make perfect sense if the company made a model for him. Number 3, Henrietta in G-scale form. My only gripe with Henrietta's HO scale model these days is that she wasn't given a redesign with a CGI face, but I guess it's for budget constraints. However, since we have G-scale Toby as well as the upcoming G-scale versions of the museum coaches, it is possible for Henrietta to have a G-scale model too, just as long as they give her a CGI face just to match the CGI series. Number 2, Duncan. As some of you may know, Duncan was one of my all-time favorite narrow gauge engines in the Thomas and Friends series, as well as the Railway series. And since Sir Handel's Bachmann model is coming soon, I think the company should make Duncan's model next because, like the others, he also has a CGI render. I also think he's a really cool character with that grumpy Scottish accent and handsome looking golden yellow coat of paint, which I think suits him more than his original red livery from the books. Duncan is number 2 because I'm predicting that he will be next after Sir Handel's model is finished, which I'm hoping will happen. Now, before I get to my number 1 pick, I just want to give a bunch of honorable mentions. Duke. It might happen, but we'll never know for sure. Besides, he got easily beat out by Duncan due to his CGI render, and Duke only appeared in Season 4 of the show, as well as stock footage for Season 7. Boko. I honestly wanted to include this guy on the list, but because some people thought he looked too similar to Daisy, it's possible that this may not happen in Bachmann form, but still, he's a cool and underrated character, and deserves to come back in CGI. Derek. He would have easily been number 10, but got beat out by D261 for similar design reasons. Oh, and did you know that he was originally going to be called Paxman instead of Derek? Molly. She would have easily been number 12, but because we're getting a model of Rebecca soon, she's not going to appear on this list anytime soon. Judy and Jerome. They would have been number 7, but I wanted to choose at least one breakdown train on the list, which ended up being Rocky. Mike, Bert, and Rex as Z-scale trains. It might be possible because there is such thing as Z-scale, which is the smallest scale of train in the world, but it may not actually happen because I think Z-scale would take way too much time and money to make, so that's why they didn't make it. And finally, number 1. A couple N-scale Thomas sets featuring some narrow gauge engines and rolling stock. With Duncan being number 2 on the list, I decided to add a few N-scale sets with HO and 30 scale models of the narrow gauge trains as my number 1 pick for Bachmann Thomas toy ideas. In fact, I have a couple of ideas. You could have one feature Scarloy with some coaches and a brake van, while the second one would feature a normal variant of Rheneas with freight cars. That way, kids won't have to buy N-scale track pieces separately, and the first N-scale model engine can be one of the Scarloy railway engines. Once again, Bachmann, if you're watching this by any chance, then please, I beg of you, make an N-scale train set with the narrow gauge engines. I really don't understand why you wouldn't. Anyways, let me know in the comments section on which Thomas items you would like for Bachmann to manufacture. Do you agree with my list, or do you have your own personal preference? If there's anything I could have elaborated more on or could have done better, let me know down below. And here's hoping everything on my list will come true in the end, but I'll have to be patient first. This is Trevor the Blue Pony, signing off.